You're here for some scary stuff, right? Well, if you subscribe, you'll get a lifetime of creepy videos, plus a chance to win a $20 Amazon gift card on January 31st. Any subscriber has a chance to win, so be sure to sub and stay subbed today. Now, check out this sweet fan art. Thank you, Caitlin. Keep up that awesome fandom. I've been wanting to get back into some werewolf sightings for a while now. Thankfully, you guys have sent stories non-stop of these creatures of the night. Certainly something is lurking in the woods, something is skulking into the human suburbs, something is hunting us. So if you want some nightmares of my favorite monster of all time, I've got 5 allegedly real werewolf encounters to share with you. Also, I want to say, I only need 3 more stories for a Scary Costco video. So if you've got an experience, be sure to send it over at darknessprevails.org. Thanks. Now, enjoy these hairy, scary stories. Number 1. The Werewolf of Houston. Submitted by Blake H. I'll start off with a bit of background. I'm currently 23, married with 2 daughters. Not to mention my wife is pregnant. I am a local truck driver in Houston, delivering lumber to mostly new residential construction sites. I'm 6 feet tall, between 180 and 190 pounds. I'm 3/4 white and 1/4 American Indian. I'm the oldest of my great-grandfather's 40-plus great-grandchildren, which means I've learned all of our history, secrets, and legends that only my tribe's elders can tell you. Anyway, my experience was on the 20th of July in 2012. It was a Friday night. I was 19 at the time. I didn't have many responsibilities other than delivering pizza part-time, so naturally, being a teenager, I was out with friends at a house party in Old Katy, a suburb west of Houston, Texas. My friends and I experimented with both marijuana and alcohol, but we were always responsible enough to make sure one of us stayed sober to be the designated driver. That particular night was my turn to be the sober one. My friend Brennan had gotten well past drunk, and once he was starting to behave reckless, I decided it was time to leave the party and take him home. He didn't want me to take him home, so instead he asked me to drive him to one of his friends' houses that I'm not familiar with. This friend, who I only remember as Joey, lived on the far west outskirts of Katy. I took a road called Morton Road to get there. We rode with the driver and passenger windows down so Brennan could get some well-needed fresh air. This street is one turn off of Morton, called Bartlett. My sense of direction is fairly superior. I've delivered pizzas all throughout Katy, and have since become a local truck driver in Houston, so I know my way around. Bartlett had 3 or 4 houses on the right side, and on the west side was a fairly large forest area, maybe 40 or so acres, and dead ends just past the last house. I had noticed that the moon was full before I even went out that night, and I vaguely noted it as I got to Joey's house, the second house on the right, and I parked my car on the left side of the road, closest to the trees. I helped Brennan get out of my car and walked him up to the porch. Joey came out, and he thanked me for dropping him off, and I said goodbye. I decided to smoke a cigarette before I left the road. At the time, I shared my car with my dad, and his number 1 rule was to not smoke in his car. After lighting the cigarette, it didn't take long to notice that the road was eerily silent. I assume I didn't notice before as I was helping my noisy drunk friend get inside the house. Maybe 3 drags into my cigarette, I heard heavy footsteps going across the gravel. It was maybe 100 feet in front of me. I was alarmed at the sound they made. It was similar to the sound of pulling something metal against concrete. Just so we're clear, my fears have always been werewolves. I've always been into horror movies, and I love scaring myself. But the only monster to pop up in my dreams, it's always been werewolves. Here I am, alone, standing on a dark road under a full moon, and that's when I hear something big walking too close for comfort in front of me. I didn't hesitate to throw down my cigarette and jump into the car. I told myself as I was getting in that I wouldn't turn on my headlights, so I wouldn't have to see what was in front of me, and I simply reversed my way back onto Morton Road and get the hell out of there. But unfortunately for me, my car had automatic headlights that turned on as soon as I started the car, a fact that I was aware of, but in my panic I seemed to ignore. Immediately in front of me, about 100 feet away as I had guessed, was a 6.5 foot to 7 foot beast. The thing was standing on 2 legs. It was covered in black fur, with the body of a gym-addicted man and the head of what I guess could be similar to a German shepherd or a black wolf. It had human-like feet, covered in dark fur as well as with large claws sticking out about 2 inches. It held its left hand out the same way a human would, reaching for something in front of him or her. I noticed that the fingers ended in large claws. While this was enough to cause my jaw to drop, what got me the most was that it was wearing torn blue jeans that seemed too tight and unnaturally torn, and an open flannel blue shirt that was ripped at its bulky shoulders. It looked my way when the lights revealed it, and it glared at me with narrowed yellow eyes, baring its large fangs. My windows were still down, and I hadn't touched my radio, so I had no trouble hearing the loud growl it let out. It then turned its head to the forest, dropped on all fours, and it ran unnaturally fast out of my sight into the trees. All of this took place in the matter of about 20 seconds, but it felt like hours. At this point, I literally had tears in my eyes, but I didn't hesitate for 1 second longer. I shoved my car in reverse and put the gas pedal to the metal, but I still heard that loud growling and grunting as I was leaving. I reversed onto Morton Road, and I went 80 to 90 miles an hour down the streets leading back to Katy, and I didn't slow down until I was on Interstate 10. While still on Morton Road, I kept my eyes in front of me, and I sobbed the whole time because I had never been so scared in my life. I can swear that the look I got from this creature, it was communicating to me that I had no business seeing him and that he wanted me gone. The look reminded me of criminals on TV being caught in their wrongdoings and wanting to cause harm to those who witnessed it. I got home, ran inside, and I called my Scottish Terrier into my room, and I didn't sleep until the sun was up. To this day, I've never had a desire nor the nerve to go back to that part of Morton Road. I obsessed over the idea that I'd seen a werewolf, so I researched sightings of werewolves on Google and was intrigued by the Beast of Bray Road and the Michigan Dogman sightings, as well as anything else that I came up with. I was disappointed to see that nothing I found on the web was precisely what I saw. While the beasts others have encountered seemed similar, none were spotted wearing clothes. I told my mother and father what I'd seen, and while my mother could tell I was being genuine, my father was more interested in me driving that far from home without letting him know. So I stopped talking about it. Of the 7 people outside of my family I've told, only my now wife and 1 friend seemed to believe me, but most laughed and asked stupid questions such as, "Did you ask the werewolf if he got the vampires yet?" and similar things like that. It's not hard for me to notice that my story sounds far-fetched, especially considering the fact that I could not find any other reported sightings near the Houston area, nor much in Texas recently either. I never submitted my encounter online because I was scared of being ridiculed, or to be honest, scared that if I did say my story, that somehow that creature would find out and they would hunt me down. I'm positive I'll never stop being haunted by the memory of that creature. It's just too vivid and too frightening to put out of my mind. I also never told Brennan, the friend I dropped off there that night. In fact, I didn't see him again for 2 years until accidentally bumping into him at a gas station in South Katy. My grandmother took an interest in my encounter and told me the legend of our tribe's skinwalkers and the cursed enemies, which in itself is very interesting and very disturbing. I'm not able to give much detail out of respect to my tribe, but I'll say this. Our skinwalkers are very different from the Navajo tribe's tales. They would transform into either bears or wolves when wars would break out. Once the leader of their enemies were caught, the skin wolf, our nickname for it, would bite and infect them, damning them to become a half-wolf monster under the light of the full moon. Similar to most werewolf legends, our ancestors' spirits are most powerful and prominent during the full moon, and it is them who would force our enemies into this transformation. The curse would be passed down for every eldest male of each new generation of the cursed enemy's descendants. I normally would call all of this bullcrap or just a scary story, But after the night of my sighting and what followed 4 years later, let's just say I've got an open mind. Last summer, in 2016, my mom and fiance, now wife, went shopping at Barnes & Noble, and they noticed a book by an author who was a cryptozoologist, and who I followed on social media in case of hearing anything similar to my experience, and they thought I'd like it. I couldn't put it down, and after reading a chapter where a woman in Tennessee saw a clothed creature, I decided that after 4 years of hesitating, it was time to write to her. She believed my story and told me about a lot of people reporting things similar to mine. I let her in on my tribe's legends to give both of us an angle we hadn't considered as far as learning what this creature is. It's been months since our conversations, and ever since she posted my story, she has no idea what came next. My horror wasn't over. In September of 2016, I was delivering lumber to a new neighborhood in Katy, right near that accursed Bartlett Road. The way it's set up is you've got an Avenue D and Bartlett Road, the road of my encounter, running parallel to each other, with Friends Road cut off connecting them in between, which is where I was en route to a new developing neighborhood, and I blew out my tire. All I could do was wait. I smoked about 3 cigarettes, listened to horror stories on YouTube, and started working on lyrics. I'm also a songwriter, when suddenly a truck came down the darkening road. I assumed it was the tire guy, but the truck was an old and beat up, probably a 98 model Ford F-150, red with a single cab. The truck slowed as it came near mine, and he rolled his window down. I didn't pay much attention to him, but I looked up in his direction. His face was hidden, but in a rough, quiet voice he asked, "Hey, bud, is everything all right? Anything I can help you with?" I replied, "No thanks, sir. I got a service truck due here about 5 minutes from now to fix the tire. I really appreciate your help and courtesy though, thanks." The man then turned his head sharply towards me and sniffed the air, then smiled, revealing very yellow teeth, with canines that honestly looked like fangs of a freaking vampire. What freaked me out the most was that this guy was wearing a blue flannel shirt with patches on the shoulder. The werewolf I saw had a torn blue flannel shirt on, and I don't believe in coincidence, not after seeing everything I saw. My eyes were widened in shock, and his smile grew more sinister as he said to me, "I remember you." "What?" I stammered. "I remember you." He growled loudly in a demonic-sounding voice, and his eyes seemed to turn yellow. The tire truck came down the road at that moment, and the man looked annoyed but still very satisfied with himself. He looked at me, his eyes normal and his teeth just yellow but not sharp, and he said, "See you around, Blake." I almost had a heart attack right then and there with him saying my name. I could barely mumble a curse under my breath, but he was already pulling away. I got his license plate, but I never called it in. I mean, what the heck do I say to the cops? Yeah, this dude just drove by and he freaked me out. I think he's a werewolf, because he has a shirt the same as the one I saw 4 years ago. It just was not an option. I haven't seen the man since, and I still refuse to go out on the night of the full moon. It's just not worth the risk to me. I know most people won't believe me, but I honestly couldn't care less if you did or not. I know what I saw, and I'm not crazy. The stuff of legends isn't just legends. This all has proved to me that the world we know, it's full of things we can never possibly understand. My advice to you is to not put yourself in situations that would be bad in a horror movie. I was the lucky survivor. You just might be the first unlucky victim of the never-ending hunger and rage of the beast. Number 2. The Rougarou. Submitted by Tyler L. My mom used to tell me this story. Basically, let me tell you a bit about where this took place. It was in a very small town in Canada. It was at night and in the 90s. It's sort of a local story turned urban legend, and my mom always sweared it to be true. One night, a married young woman asked her husband to go and get something for supper. So the man walked to the grocery store in the neighboring town. Half an hour later, and the husband was still not back. The woman set out herself to search for her husband. When she was halfway to the other town, she heard rustling in the bushes behind her up the hill. She didn't pay it much mind, as she assumed it was just animals. Many of them became more active in the night. And that's when she heard the growling, and before she could run, the animal had attacked her. With the brightness of the full moon, she got a good look at it. The creature was large and covered in fur, brown fur to be exact. It had large, menacing teeth, and it attacked her legs. She panicked, kicking her legs about until she struck it, leaving a wicked scratch on its face. The woman got away, and the animal followed her. It was on twos at first, until it got down on all fours and ran faster than an average wolf. All of a sudden, lights headed toward them, and the animal vanished. Luckily, the lights came from her neighbor. She got into the car with them, and she told her everything. When she got home, her husband was sitting down, and he had a deep scratch on his face. How did he get home so quick, and how did he get that scratch? Was he the Rougarou? Number 3. Werewolf at the Window. Submitted by Mitchie Ash. This happened way back when I was 12 years old. I was in the 7th grade at the time, and it was a Friday night, a cold night. I had decided to read a fanfiction on my school's iPad for a relaxing time. Lying in bed, I found a good story to read, but from the corner of my vision, there were 2 red eyes staring back at me. I turned to look at them. They were still there, just gazing at me. I stood in my bed, motionless and with my mouth agape. The creature seemed to have 2 pointed ears and a dog-like shape as it still stared at me. I was about to scream, but nothing came out. I still looked at the thing, and it left, running away. I never saw the thing again, but a few months later, there were police up and down my neighborhood. My neighbors had called them, saying that something had been jumping over their fences. I thought about it for a moment, and I do remember one bright day when I saw something rather large jump right over my fence. I told my dad, who then told the police himself, and I still remember how shocked I was. I had told my mother, but she didn't believe me. I tried my sisters as well, but they didn't believe me either. Another day after, it was a full moon, and throughout the night, we all could hear howling from all over the neighborhood. The howling was a very, very deep tone, unnaturally so, and though we all tried to believe it was a dog, we all knew better than that. It was very strange, but even worse was, there was rustling in my backyard tree. My room was on the 2nd floor, but I could see something moving in there. But I never saw anything for sure. I checked in on my dogs who were in the house. They barked and barked near the tree. I could never find out what it was, but without a doubt, I knew that this werewolf had returned. Number 4. Creepy Dog Thing. Submitted by MC. Before I start this story, I'd just like to say that I'm not positive that this was a monster, and I'm kind of a skeptic when it comes to believing things like this. But to this day, I still have no idea what I saw, and it creeps me out. One night, my friends and I wanted to buy some snacks from the corner store down the street. We often stayed up all night together at one of our houses because we were neighbors. There are 2 ways to get home from the corner store: the long way and the short way. I don't remember why, but that night, we all decided to take the long way. The long way was a normal street that ended in a dirt road. The part where the dirt road was led to our street. This dirt road was pretty creepy at night. It was full of trees and not one street light. Since we were all together, I guess we just felt safer going this way at night. We joked around about being scared, but we weren't really all that scared. We had walked this road a lot during the day, so I guess we just thought it wasn't that serious. But as we started to approach the dirt end of the road, we all stopped. The dirt part of the road isn't long at all, and at the end we could see a dog-like figure. But the thing is, it didn't really look like a dog. It had 4 legs and fur like a dog, but its ears were very pointy, and it was massive. It honestly looked like it was about to eat us. We walked a little closer, curious to see if it was a stray dog, or something like that. But the closer we got, the more sure we were that it wasn't. I live in a city, so we don't have wolves or any coyotes. Plus, it was so unnaturally big, it couldn't have been either of those things. And the moment it stood up on its back legs, that's when my friends and I really got scared. We turned around and started to run back to the corner store. To my surprise, the thing did not follow us. It never even made any noise. After that, we pretty much speed walked to my friend's house in silence. We talked about it, and when we got there, we all agreed that we had no idea what that thing was. But we could agree on one thing. We never want to see it again. Number 5. Scary Creature in the Yard. Submitted by Robert S. Let me start off by saying I live in rural Oklahoma, so we have lots of forests around where I live. This happened in the middle of summer, and I was at my house with a friend. Let's call him Jack. Jack and I were playing video games in my living room while my mom and dad were on vacation. They went to North Carolina to see my mom's dad. Honestly, I don't like that side of my family too much, so I asked if I could stay home. My friend Jack ended up staying at the house for the full 4 days they were gone. We stayed up late, ate a bunch of junk food, we went trail riding, and even went ding-dong ditching. It was a really good time. We were playing video games on the night my dad was supposed to come home, and that's when we heard a noise from outside. It sounded like a squeal from a dog that got hurt. The blinds were closed, so I asked Jack to see what it was. He looked out of the blinds and said he couldn't see anything. So we simply went back to playing our video games. But this noise, this very disturbing noise, it went on for about 2 more hours. Now, I wasn't especially concerned because my dog was inside sitting on my lap. She is a 4-year-old lab and pretty big for her breed, so there's really nothing to worry about whether she's inside or outside. When we were done playing video games, we went up to make some popcorn and invite my girlfriend over. I know it sounds dumb to invite a girl over the night my dad was supposed to come back, but luckily for me, my dad loves my girlfriend, so he doesn't really mind. She was driving over to my place, and she called me in a panic when she was pulling into my driveway. She said that there was this very large, big gray thing running out of my backyard. It ran right into the woods behind my house. She was so sure it wasn't a dog, and she was so terrified that she didn't get out of her car. So I opened the garage for her to come in and park. I asked her where it had been, and she said she saw it standing outside of my living room window. I just brushed it off, trying to act tough for my girlfriend. I'm 17 and larger for my age, so I tried to act the part. We started watching a movie, and about halfway in, we could hear loud screaming coming from my backyard. It sent chills down my spine. We paused the movie, and we could hear a loud banging on the window. Very nervously, in silence, Jack slowly walked over, and he looked into the window. He saw a creature there with 2 long fingers pressed against the glass. We all walked over and saw the thing. It had to have been about 9 feet tall, reaching almost to the ceiling if it were inside. It was gray, with a little bit of fur on its shoulders. Its arms were dreadfully long, and it had 2 long fingers ending in claws. It looked in at us with those glowing yellow eyes. I will never forget it. It screamed again and smacked the glass, and it actually cracked. My dad's headlights came around the corner and were shining on this thing, and it bolted faster than anything I've ever seen before. To this day, when I go to my parents' house, I hear the little whining sound of a dog. My mom said she saw a handprint on their bedroom window with a small hand and 2 huge fingers. And since then, they have put up a fence and security cameras, and I've never gone outside at night again. I can't be sure if werewolves are some sort of cursed creature or simply a natural yet rare and fearsome animal, but I can say with certainty they are out there. Something that walks on two legs like a man with the looks and ferocity of a wolf, searches for prey in the woods, and as you can see, sometimes they stumble upon humans. It makes you wonder, are they curious about the taste of people, or have they already had it? Good night. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And don't forget, send me your Costco horror stories soon. I need only 3 more for a future video. Just send them over at darknessprevails.org. Thanks.